Hey guys, welcome back to Simply Cheyenne. And today, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be doing my first ever story time. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the time I witnessed my mum almost. So before we get started, click like to see more story times. Comment down below if you want me to do more story times, or if you don't really want me to do and just stick to something else. So comment down below that. And if you haven't yet or are new to my channel, subscribe to become a member of my YouTube family. So let's get into the video. Okay, so I was around 7 to 9 years old. I'm not really sure whether I was 7, 8 or 9, but I was definitely around that age. So my mum dropped me off to school in the morning, as every parent does, and said to me, my granddad's going to be picking me up to take me to Toby Carvery after school as a nice treat. So I thought nothing of it and was just like, yay, I'm going to Toby Carvery, told all my friends, ran around all day screaming, I'm going to Toby Carvery, I'm so excited. Didn't choose a roast dinner option at school, got pasta, and I was just like, yes, I'm going to Toby Carvery with my family, and I love my family so much. They're always there for me, and they always, I wouldn't know where I was or who I am today without them, and I just think family is so precious. You should, you know, savour every moment, every second, every minute you have with them, because it doesn't last forever. As everyone should know, everyone has to die, and you want to savour every moment you have with your family because, you know, as I just said, they're not going to be around forever. And, you know, so school ended and my granddad picked me up. We got into his car and we drove to Toby Carvery and parked. And then we got out of the car, we were just about to walk through the doors when my granddad got a phone call, and I remember saying, "Who's that?" But he didn't, just ignored me and just answered the phone. It was my mum, and she said that she's on the motorway, her car had broken down and she needed granddad to come and help her and get her off this motorway and basically fix her car or get her a new one. You know, something like that, or she'd buy it, or something like that. So anyway, my granddad finished the phone call and I was like, what's wrong? And he said, we're going to have to go get your mum, she's stuck on the motorway. I remember my face, like, I don't know if my face dropped, but I remember my happy scowl was up here, sorry, and it just dropped into here, because I really wanted that Toby Carvery. And, you know, so anyway, we got back into the car and we got to where my mum was on the motorway and pulled up in front of her. Previously, before we got onto the motorway, my granddad went to the petrol station and brought a rope. And I remember it being really odd, wondering, why did you get a rope for? Wouldn't you have got something more firm or something else? I was really confused with that, and I wasn't really sure why he chose to get the rope. But I just chose to ignore it and just carry on listening to the radio, as I would have done, as I still do now, and just think about it to myself in my head. So we got there, as I just said, and my granddad got out, and I remember my mum saying, a rope, why did you get a rope? That's so unfirm. And my granddad said, it will be fine, nothing's going to happen. What's the worst that could happen? It's firm, it's a rope. And, you know, I got out the car at that point and said, Mum, can I come in your car? I want to go along with you. I've never been in a car that's been towed before. It's going to be pretty cool. So my mum said, no, you go into Granddad's car. It's going to be really unsafe. So I said, Mum, no, I want to go into your car. And I remember just saying, fine, and get back into my granddad's car. So I got back into my granddad's car and my granddad adjusted one side of the rope to the back of his vehicle and the other side to the front of my mother's. He got back into the car, my mum got back into the car, and my granddad told my mum to steer along as if she's driving. So my granddad turned his engine on, my mum turned hers on, and everything was fine. My mum turned the wheel as my granddad did. I remember looking back and seeing the rope that attached both vehicles, snap. And right then my heart was going, I was terrified. I was like, Granddad, the rope snapped. My granddad stopped the vehicle. I was like, oh, you know. And I'm not sure if this is 100%, but I remember him either saying it or shouting it, but I'm just going to say he shouted it. Told my mum to steer the wheel, you know. But the steering wheel had locked, as it had on the way where she was going. So what happened to my mum's car before she phoned my granddad was she was driving along and her steering wheel locked, which means when your steering wheel locks, you can't move it at all, and if it's going this way, that's all it will do. If it's going this way, then it'll only go that way, it'll swerve, you know, you can't control the steering wheel or the way your car's going. So my mum pulled up, and that's when she called my granddad. So granddad said it wouldn't really happen again, but it did, and the rope snapped. So our car stopped, granddad reversed back into the lay-by, and he just jumped out of the car. And I remember I was told to just stay in the car, stay where I was. I remember myself like ready to burst into tears because the rope had just snapped, and my granddad was telling my mum, shouting at my mum from across the road to steer the wheel, but the wheel was locked this way, so my mum was just going this way all the way along the lanes. And then I remember me screaming and almost in tears. I was just about to start crying when I saw my mum got to the last lane, and there was a big massive lorry right behind her. So this was my mum and my granddad. The rope was right there. It snapped. We both went like that way. The rope snapped. My mum's steering wheel got locked, and she kept going this way along all the lanes. She got to the last lane. Her car was still going across it. She just missed the car that drove in front of her, like past her before she went. And there was a lorry that just was coming. It was massive. It was a big, great Arctic lorry. And I remember my mum telling me recently that when she saw that lorry in the window screen, she was praying to God and thinking, okay, this is the end of my life. I'm never gonna see the light of day again. This is the end. And you know, hearing my mum say that to me made me feel a little bit like upset, and knowing that I am so lucky. She is so lucky to like still be here, and I'm so lucky to still have her here today, and my grandparents, and you know, and everyone that's in our family. Like, we're all so lucky for her to still be alive, because she could be dead right now and I wouldn't be filming these videos at all, you know. And so the Arctic lorry came, and my mum just went and hit the, when the motorway has the four or three lanes here, then like a big massive wall, and then the others. So she banged into that wall, the car bumper things, I'm not sure what they're called, and the car stopped. The lorry drove past, but there was a van that was behind it, or it was either on the other lane, I'm not really sure. Excuse me. And it pulled over next to my mum, in front of her. The man jumped out of the car and ran over to my mum and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" He got her out of the car. My mum was shaking. I could see her shaking from across the road. I was so relieved. When I saw my mum was okay, my heart was like this, went like this, back to normal speed. I was shaking, you know, even saying this now, I'm shaking right now, like even speaking about this, thinking about this, all these emotions again, you know, fear, like speaking about this again makes me like terrified. And then then my granddad looked to see if there were cars coming. There were cars coming, but he risked it anyway. He ran right across the road, locked me in the car so I couldn't follow, and ran right across the road to see if my mum was okay, see what happened to the car. You know, that was a stupid idea. She never used rope. And then the police came. They did a few tests on my mum to see if she was drinking or not, took a statement, said that she was very lucky. And then my granddad got back into the car and just drove me to my nan's house, where he left me there. and he went back onto the motorway to get my mum, like, see if she was okay, you know, the car and stuff. And I just told my nan everything that happened. When I got there, I was shaking. My nan gave me a big hug because I was shaking, like, rapidly. I might as well have, like, I was absolutely shaking when I first got into the house. My nan gave me a big hug, made me a nice warm curry, you know, I was terrified. I just wanted to give my mum a big hug. Shortly after, my mum and my granddad came back. So I'm so grateful that my mum's still here and didn't cause a massive, massive accident with loads of people involved and loads of people. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!